You know, no matter where you go, there's always a code that is called for emergency conditions. When I thought of it, the term code black, the first thing I thought of were emergency conditions, conditions that should create a sense of urgency. This book, Code Black, took on a life of its own. There was another title that I had given it, and as I began to write and begin to do more research and to begin to go through the material that I had gathered throughout the years, working with fathers, specifically black fathers who were coming, transitioning from state correctional institutions, going back home to their families. I started really delving more into the condition of a people and looking at all the contributors to the destruction of the black family. The black family has had many hands in it, which is a great part of the problem. Because it has had so many hands in it, we as a people have become dependent upon those hands to save us, to bring us forth out of the conditions of being oppressed. And at this point, it is not the responsibility of any of those hands to pull us up out of our conditions except our own. When we go back and we look at the conditions of slavery, when we look at what it is that we as a people were subjected to, not just the conditions that we lived in, the little huts and how we were packed, you know, on top of each other literally, the conditions where we had our children ripped from our arms, taken somewhere else to work for someone else, to pay off a debt. When we look at how we watched our women right before our very eyes being raped, when we look at conditions where we had to be out in fields and work from sun up to sundown, and when we look at what we were fed in terms of not just nutritionally, but what we were fed socially, what we were fed mentally. When we look at those conditions, and we look at those conditions being passed on from generation to generation, even after being free, we still have the residue of those conditions. At 52 years old, there were conditions that happened to me as a child that still I bear the residue of. So what makes you think that the trauma of enslavement, of the trauma of poverty, the trauma of oppression, the trauma of racism, the trauma of abuse, the trauma of deprivation, that those things have gone away, that those things were not passed on from their parents to our parents, from our parents to us, and from us to our children. I have been damaged seriously damaged, severely damaged by historic events that took place before I was born. I have been severely damaged by historical events that took place while my mother carried me in her womb because of her environment. I've been severely damaged by things, historic things that took place during the course of my lifetime. And there were many hands. There were many hands in those historical events. When we look at how so many of our social systems have divided and continue to divide our family, especially the black family, it's a methodical disassembling of the black family. When we had the man out of the house rule that came up in the 60s that removed benefits from the mother of a child who had a man living with her. You remember the days when a social worker would come and as soon as the social worker get there, everybody be scurrying around and making sure there's no evidence that there's a man living in that house. You remember those days, don't you? And we still have that happen today when we have a child and a mother who are receiving benefits, but because a man is there adding into that that income, a supplemental income is what it is, but that supplemental income can't exist because that's not what the system wants to have happen. My grandson is in trouble. His mother called me the other day and said that, that he's selling drugs, that he's using drugs, and that she went to the system to get help. And the system told her that because he's not missing school, because he's not been locked up or anything like that, there's nothing that they can do for her. So in other words, wait until he goes to get locked up. Wait until he starts messing up in school. Then we can do something to help your son. That makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? It's not a welfare system, it's a farewell system. Over 30,000 kicked off of welfare benefits. How else do you think that these folks are going to survive? How else? They survive because now they have to go resort to crime. So now they knock you upside the head. Now they jump over bank counters. Now they run into 7-Elevens and steal a little money that's in that drawer just to be able to pay a bill for this month. I grew up in South Philadelphia in the 60s during the Rizzo administration. We were taunted, provoked, intimidated by white officers on a daily basis. I was chased by white children, white teens, white adults, going back and forth to elementary school, had rocks thrown at me. Chased with hockey sticks and bottles thrown at me, going to elementary school. I was hated by whites because of my color, and I was hated by blacks because of my color. The light-skinned, dark-skinned conflicts. Crazy. I fought this one guy every day, every single day. He was dark and I was light-skinned, and he just wanted to fight me every single day. Every day. Every day I had to meet him at the bridge right after school. That's where it was. Either I was going to fight him or I was going to get my behind beat. Yes, I understand that there are things that have been put upon us, that continue to be put upon us as a people, that deprive us of certain liberties. I got that. But when you drive around every other community Take a look, make a comparison. Why does the black community always have to look so poor? People don't want to even come out and say good morning, good evening, good afternoon. People don't want to come out on Saturday mornings to move their cars so the block can be cleaned. Even if you don't want to get your behind up, you can't even come and move the car so we can clean the block, and then want to fight you because you're asking them to move their car. Because they don't want to move their car from in front of their door. We're not neighborly towards one another. We're judgmental of one another. No matter where you move to, it's the same conditions. And we may be a little cleaner in some other counties because the county takes responsibility and cleans the streets, because the county takes responsibility and holds you responsible for putting your trash out during certain hours to making sure your property is kept up, because the county does that. The county does that. But just think, if the county didn't do those kind of things, what would be our conditions in the surrounding counties that surround Philadelphia? What would our environments really look like? What if we were permitted to do whatever we wanted to do without county interference? So there always has to be some hand in this to keep order. But the question becomes, why are we keeping any kind of order within ourselves? We are fighting about all the wrong things. Whether the N-word is used or unused. We're fighting over light skin and dark skin. We're fighting over whether I call myself black or African American. We are fighting over all of the wrong things, man. We're fighting and killing over parking spaces. We're fighting and killing each other over sneakers, over garments. And these garment makers don't even give a damn about us. You're concerned with Versace, Gucci, and Coach. What is Versace, Gucci, and Coach doing for the black community? I went to Modell's the other day, and this was on a Thursday, on a Wednesday, at about 11 o'clock, and there were people lined up with chairs and sleeping blankets and everything. And I asked the guy in the store, what's up? What kind of sale y'all got going on? He said, well, it's not a sale. The new Jordans come out tomorrow. They come out tomorrow. I was at Modell's 11 o'clock in the morning. The first person in line got there 5 o'clock in the morning for something that comes out on the following day. But we have 37 schools closing in the city of Philadelphia. There's no outrage. There's no line. There are no chairs posted up outside the city hall. There are no blankets outside the city hall. Nobody's occupying anything, but you want to occupy the front of Modell's for sneakers. Maybe it's just me. Maybe it's just me. There are a lot of conditions that we need to address. But until we begin to understand why these things exist, we will never have any resolve. This black on black crime has to stop. As of December 30th, 2012, there are 500 murders in the city of Chicago. 500. I've lost track of all the killings that have happened in Philadelphia. The murders. I've lost track of all the murders that have happened in Delaware, in Camden. I've lost track. It's disheartening how we continue to live our lives as individuals. This is our problem. This is all of our problem. And we need to stop depending on others to fix this issue, because others have gotten tired of trying to help us too. Others have gotten tired of trying to help us. We're not helping ourselves when we keep beating up on each other. We don't want to listen to each other. Nobody has an idea unless it comes, unless it comes to me. It's my idea that has to be. No. No. We continue to be so judgmental of one another that we can't move forward. We're fighting over the N-word. Like, don't mention the N-word. Code Black focuses on a group of people, but we're talking about humanity. We're talking about humanity. We're talking about a people who have still, after all of these years, not risen up to being more than 3/5 of a person to the eyes of many. To many. So we're not getting the short end of the stick. We're holding the damn stick and letting everybody eat off of it. And we wind up with this. We're holding the stick. We have the power. We have the intelligence. We have everything there to take that stick and make sure that we get ours first. But no, we holding it. So we're not getting the short end of the stick because that's what somebody is giving us. We're getting the short end of the stick because we're letting everybody else eat off of that stick. And everybody else is building from what they have eaten off of that stick. We're still standing there holding the stick and complaining about the fact that we have the short end of the stick. What are we changing? We've become so materialistic that nothing else matters. That we're trying to outdo one another with the finest cars, the finest houses, the finest woman, the finest man, the finest jewelry. Everything has to be fine. It doesn't make sense. How do you walk around with $300 pants on when you don't even have $300 in your bank account? There's something wrong with that conditioning. And we're not looking at the origination of this kind of behavior. We're not looking for any resolve to our conditions. We keep wanting to change laws, change gun laws, change school laws, stop closing schools, stop. No matter what school a child goes to, if the school has no books, if the school has to take one book and make copies and pass out sheets to everyone in the class as a means to teach, it shouldn't matter. It's your responsibility. It's my responsibility as a parent to teach our children at home. You want your child to know something about black history? You teach your child about black history. You want your child to excel in math? You learn how to do math, and you sit down and do math with your child. And you do it over and over and over and over again until they are proficient with it, until they master it. You teach mastering at home. The teacher's responsibility is just to follow a curriculum. You teach your child how to master that curriculum. That's your responsibility as a parent. You teach your child about economics. You teach your child about banking. You teach your child that that kind of stuff, and stop thinking that somebody else is going to teach your child that. It's nobody else's responsibility. My mother stayed on my sister and I about how we talk, how we walk, our writing skills, study habits. She taught us about all of those things. If I said ain't in the house, I got slapped in my mouth. I got corrected. We had to write over and over and over again. Over the dotted lines, y'all remember the little dotted lines to in the book when you were writing, and we had to learn how to write on lined paper. I learned how to write so well that my letters look almost like they were typed. It's our responsibility, man. It's no one else's responsibility. Code Black addresses everything about the black condition, especially for black males, that leads us into addiction, incarceration, criminality, the family court system. I mean, everything, man. Everything. That's what Code Black is about. Code Black is like a reference guide for anyone, not just blacks. Code Black. I want Code Black to be a reference guide, a source of reference, a handbook for understanding the black condition. Code Black paints the entire picture of the black condition. Code Black paints a small picture of the condition for black males. So if anyone picked the book up and began to read, they would begin to see conditions that evolved from slavery into the 17th, 18th, 19th, 20th centuries. You'll be able to see the progression, the evolvement of the very same condition, while you see it just make use of more modern techniques of oppression, more modern techniques of control, more modern techniques of custody, more modern techniques of genocides. You see it if you follow it.